Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Champions Chess Tour 2024. The grand finale in Oslo in Norway. This is day number 2. Friendly reminder, it's a round robin first. Top 2 qualify to the semis. Bottom 2 get eliminated. And then we have a survival stage. Magnus Carlsen at home, defending home turf, playing lights out chess. But one of his biggest rivals is the one that he appointed a long time ago as the only person he would stick around to challenge, rather defend, the World Chess Championship in Alireza Firouzja. On a side note, I did something really great today. I took an afternoon nap, which did not leave me feeling like I got hit by a train. You ever take a nap? That's the question. Have you ever taken a nap? And then you wake up and you're groggy and it actually didn't help? Well, today I woke up and I am energized, washed my hair, and I am ready for this recap. And friendly reminder, launch sale of Chess League 2.0. Give it a try if you haven't already. You can take the free trial. No credit card required. All right? You have my word. If you haven't done it yet, I don't know what you're waiting for. We built the coolest chess educational platform, and it's only going to get better. You're finally going to be able to beat that friend or coworker at chess. So if you're not taking advantage of it, it's your fault. Now, this will be our main event. We are going to kick things off in the matchup between Magnus Carlsen and Maxime Vachier-Lagrave. By the way, just like yesterday, the rating does bounce all over the place. Like Magnus is 2838. Other times he's 2906. But this time I figured out why. It's because some of these games are listed as chess.com rapid elo. Magnus is 2906 on chess.com, and he's 2838 over the board. Now, why are the different ratings presented? This is the chess world, folks. We cannot do anything correctly. we are our own worst enemy in marketing our events, presenting our events. I don't know. I don't know why this is confusing. It confused me. I don't know what, but I got to the bottom of it, and I'm happy I did. So, Magnus versus MVL. And we will kick things off in this matchup. Magnus opens with the ready. Maxime, one of the world's leading practitioners in the Grunfeld defense with knight f6, g6, and d5. Nowadays, he sort of plays everything, but this time he goes back to a setup that is true and tried, but Magnus not interested in discussing the deep intricacies of the Grunfeld with MVL, instead taking the game into this territory, whatever on earth this opening is. It's a 10-minute, 2-second format, 2-second bonus format. We have h3, takes, and MVL happy to play uber solid chess. However, this position is Magnus's bread and butter. If you're going to play something like this, you're going to be in for a long night. And they start playing at 6 p.m. So they're going to be there till 10. They're going to be going all night long. Knight c3, a5, queen c2, and the only way to make progress here with white is going to be to either trade or make a pawn break. You ask me, I would have been considering e4, and as you can see, that gives away the entire advantage, which is why I'm sitting here on my butt, and they're, playing over there. But obviously, yes, cd5 or e4 are the two things that white is considering. Magnus builds up and ultimately is going to make that trade, and he has secured the open file. This is a masterclass in how to play middle games. The bishop doesn't really have a future right now. It's just going to sit and wait. The knight does. The knight is going to reposition itself to sit very, very nicely in between the pawns from where it can then jump forward. This bishop will either support a future e-pawn advancement or keep the structure intact and drop back to the e2 square when the knight has finished up its journey. There's knight f4. MVL makes a lock of the queen side. There's the queen rotating, so it's not in the line of sight of any of the other pieces. The knight goes to d3. And now every good position requires a rook infiltration and a doubling. Rook to c6 played, rook to c1 incoming. There it is. Now MVL gets a couple of rooks off the board. Obviously, if MVL traded all the pawns and all the pieces, and it would just be pawns left, it would be a draw. But Magnus has too many pieces for that to happen. Queen c1, he's waiting. He's waiting. Here comes the bishop, and as you can see, almost nothing has happened in 10 moves. In fact, the last pawn move was 10 moves ago, and yet the advantage was half. So obviously, this repositioning has only benefited white. who now takes the next step into the position, and now every good dominant positional advantage, in this case this is dominant because the black pieces just absolutely cannot fight back, is ultimately, I'm forgetting the word, like, every good positional advantage is ultimately confirmed or, see, this is why I shouldn't nap before recaps. I can't remember, I'm gonna remember the word the second I finish this video. But basically, you know, you finish it off, and that's crazy. I'm getting old. H4. You basically convert your positional advantage like this, and you start an attack. I'm not gonna edit that out. I'm gonna live up to my failures and shortcomings. The bishop goes to d6, the pawn goes to h5, and Magnus makes 2 more pawn breaks, and this was just I like watching Magnus play chess because it's like, you know, it inspires you to go boot up a game on chess.com and lose to someone 200 elo below you. You guys know the feeling. I'm not insulting you. I do the same thing. I'm like, wow, that was such a great game. And then I boot up a game and then I lose. Yeah, he doesn't lose. He, f7. This is just queen h8. By the way, the whole time he just takes all the pawns. This knight's still hanging. Yeah, he didn't forget about it. And you know what's funny is he wasn't even happy with his play, Magnus. He thought he didn't play well. He actually did lose the second game to MVL. He ended up winning the mini match in the Armageddon. Friendly reminder, like, the way that works is if you win your match, you just score a point for the overall round robin standings. So he was doing his thing. He played some great games. He played 2 games against Levon Aronian, which were breathtaking, like awesome games. So sit back. I'm going to show these 2 games to you. Then I'm going to show you the only man that put up, you know, any sort of resistance to him and had a very nice day of his own. So this is an age-old matchup. These guys have played each other probably like 1,000 times. E4, C5, Levon going for the Sicilian defense. What opening, you know, could it be except the Najdorf? This is the Rolls-Royce of Sicilian defenses, by the way. Right now we've got Dragon on Chesley. We got 4 Knight Sicilian coming up. That's with E6 though. I'll be adding my favorite Sicilian, which is the Kalashnikov. And in the future, any Sicilian like the O'Kelly or anything like that, accelerated Dragon is going to be there as well. So, yeah, the cool thing about Chesley is that it's basically all courses in one. So you just get anything you want. It's going to be improvement courses, skills courses, and so on and so forth. Najdorf, I don't know if I would teach the Najdorf to intermediate players, but, you know, maybe. Bishop e2, one of 17 moves that white can play on the 6th move. I'm not even exaggerating. There might even be more at this point. And the Najdorf is ultimately all about the d5 square. If white is able to take, plant firmly a knight there, build behind it, and so on. And in this game, Magnus actually plays, he plays bishop f6, and simply just plays in a way that all he cares about is the d5 square. There's other lines here. First of all, f4 is almost always a useful move. It's kind of a fascinating concept, but you just try to put some pressure with the bishop sort of advanced. And after pawn takes f4, white doesn't even have to take back in some positions. White can play, for example, queen d3, and even long castle before taking back on f4 and simply adding some pressure over here. It's a very fascinating concept. The Najdorf has lots of wrinkles, all right? It's old. Long castle, bishop e7, there's the knight on d5, and we have this position where Levon has basically not thought. He is playing very quickly with 10 minutes on the clock. Rook f1. Knight goes back to d2. Why is the knight going back to d2? It wants to reroute, just like in the previous game I showed you. Pieces go back, they go forward. We're trying to get to that d5 square. King gets out of the way. Now, do you take this knight? Because we know that the knight wants to replace the queen there one day. What do you do? If you trade like this, if white trades the bishop for the knight, let's say rook d8, bishop g4, bishop e7, take, white is forever better. Like, first of all, there is a tactic, but let's just say there wasn't a tactic and you had to play like this. Yeah, white is forever chilling. The knight on d5 is a monster. It's a complete lunatic, and it absolutely dominates the black position. So that is the trade white would love to make happen. Will Magnus successfully make it happen? No, but he is going to win a pawn. And I think here, Levon made a decision to not play passive defense. He could have played rook d8. He didn't like it because of knight b6. He could have moved this rook to d8. He didn't like it because he felt like the rooks are very passive. So what did he do? He was like, I don't want the pawn. Take the pawn. It's not important to me. Yeah, but again, I just showed you a position where Magnus was better the entire game and he had no pawn advantage. So here's a position where white is better the entire game and he does have a pawn advantage. It's not going to end very well. So rook to d8. But if Levon can be trusted for anything, I mean, he might be a trustworthy guy. You can tell him your secrets. I wouldn't tell him your, like, crypto wallet, safe words. But, like, he's probably a trustworthy and great guy. Levon can be trusted for one thing in chess. He could be trusted to start a fight. Like, he's a great dynamic player. I think he's either 40 or close to 40 right now, which is dust in the wind in high-level chess. I'm exaggerating. You guys like Vishy Anand, who are just legends and playing dominant at 50, but Levon's been a perennial, exciting, dynamic player for like multiple decades, almost 3 at this point, and he's always ready to scrap, and this game is no different. He's down a couple of pawns, but he's going to create some complications. Rook on b8, Magnus defending himself, but black has got a very nice position, and I told you white wanted bishop versus knight. White does not want this bishop and this knight. White wanted the knight versus the bishop. And all of a sudden, Levon's actually got a nice thing going here. If you didn't have the evaluation bar here, you would not know that it's +2. King a2, queen b6. Look at what happens. Magnus here grabs this. Rook a3 Levon finds, which is an unbelievable resource. You cannot take because you're mated. You cannot take because you're mated. Luckily, you can get out, but you're walled in by your rooks. Queen b3. Look at this. If you don't have this, you are terrified here. Magnus now needs to pop the rook forward, mostly to get out with the king. Check here, check here. The king bolts out, and a couple of moves later, makes it out to the e3 square, but Levon has a pawn that somehow marches 2 squares away from promotion. This is unbelievable. Queen on c7 attacks the rook. We have b2. Oh my god. He takes a pawn with check, and he plays rook d7. And Magnus has to allow the promotion. Levon, in all that fire, found a way to bring a second queen on the board. But it's not good enough, because the king is mated. So he has to play defense, and that gives Magnus just enough time to stop the pawn with the bishop instead of the rook. And now we get to this position, and unfortunately, Levon's attack is extinguished, and the king, this is great, the king bolted out all the way over here, ran to the other side, completely evicted from his castle. I mean, from the entire queen side, ran across the field to g3, and actually, as a bonus, ended up on f4, because now the king, after catching his breath, has to re-enter the game as an active king in the endgame. Rook e8, rook a7, and Magnus, as always, has to convert a game in a rook endgame, where his king gets extra cardio and helps the pawn promote. Crazy. I mean, you talk about a hero king. That was a hero king. Pawn to h8, and that's the end of the game. Why did Levon not stop? It doesn't really matter. Rook g2, you just don't go here and blunder the rook. If here, he would have gone to f7 or, and then he would have won. After this, there's this. You go here. Pawn's promoting. What a game. Just what a game. I mean, just an... And by the way, I told you I have 2 games for you, Magnus Levon, because they were both awesome. They were both really, really awesome games. All right? So... Now, what's funny, when these recaps are around 30 minutes long, I don't know how long this one, maybe 28, 29, viewer retention is like 50%, just in general. Fun fact, letting you in on a little secret here. So right around this point, people lose their attention span on average, and then they're going to go click something on the side, a video game, sports, podcast. So let's just give those folks like 10 seconds. I'm going to guilt trip you into departing, because like you're going to miss an epic game. I'm going to get some water. Go ahead. There you go. They're still here. All the cool people stayed. Me and you. And everybody else. We're the cool people. All right. Now, these folks are going to miss another banger game. That was awesome. The king running across the board. That was epic stuff. By the way, Magnus loves epic stuff. So even though he's playing Levon now not to lose, meaning he's just, remember, best of 2. So you just got to score 1.5. He already won that game. These boys play as a... Magnus, he just likes chess. His rating is going up and down 70 points every single game, but, he loves chess. So, e6, d3, Levon playing a King's Indian attack. What the... So, if I showed you this position, right, after 4.5 moves, white played 5, black played 4, You would think the rating is, without the 2, you would think 838 versus 757. Guess the elo just based on the opening. That would be a fun little mini game. What is this, boys? I mean, I've never... What? F6? I think this is just a game where two guys just like to make dynamic stuff happen. Magnus is not afraid of playing dynamics against Levon. Levon playing d4. Now we've kind of reached the position of clarity. Now we're going to have a couple of easy moves. Bishop here, castles, knight here. Black is going to castle. Oh, Levon doesn't let him castle. Okay. Okay. So we got to kick the bishop out. But now we have check. Now the king has to go to f7. And now the bishop comes back to d2. Magnus says, oh, you wanted to mess with my king? h5. Now I'm going to attack your king. Knight c3. But here's the thing. It's actually black's position who is weaker. b3 is here. After takes, I'm going to get my a-pawn out. Maybe play c4 myself in the future. Right? Bishop d7. Magnus is worse. I mean, Levon's made a lot of very nice improvements. Everything is flowing. The position is going really, really well. c5 taking space away. Knight comes back, targeting the pawn on d5. Knight c6. Everything's good. Knight b4 takes. Probably Levon in this position should have started with queen d3. So that if knight c6 happened here, he just never has to come back. And the bishop kind of covers here. Levon wanted to move the knight from the edge of the board and maybe prevent some bishop b5 type of stuff from happening. This could have been what he didn't like. But actually, the knight on c3 was worse placed because it allowed Magnus to get a little bit of activity and gain the momentum back in the game. But it was actually Levon who refound the initiative. Knight c6, b4. This is Levon doing Levon type of things. Game gets really exciting here. And Magnus makes a mistake. He makes a mistake here because Levon can play take, and sack the knight. And if you take, I have queen g6 and my queen's in. Then I come in here, I'm going to take this. Crazy. Bishop h3, knight d5, queen g6. Levon sees it. He sees all sorts of possibilities. He grabs it this way. This is the wrong way. The knight can take and then the queen goes to g6. But this is the wrong way. And it allows Magnus to punch back. This is a heavyweight fight. Bishop d5, knight takes d4 is both guys landing on the face of the other. All right? Bishop takes b7, grabbing yet another pawn. The rook zips in to create counterplay down the b file. The bishop goes back to the center of the board. Magnus makes a move in the center of the board as well. And here Levon just has to call the bluff. He just has to take a pawn. Got to take a pawn. And the craziest thing is, if Magnus then plays g5 and this knight has to come backwards, you don't. The absolute most gangster move I have seen in a while. f4. Striking back. If pawn takes h4, pawn takes e5 is totally crushing. If pawn takes f4, you play pawn f4, queen g4, and you just king h1. And apparently white is just totally winning here. But Levon plays this move, bulldozing the black king's position. If knight takes, queen takes. Now Magnus has to be clutch. He has only one move here to claim the advantage. And that move is the backwards retreating move, knight c6. And he finds it. The knight goes back. What's the point? The bishop hits the knight. The knight is no longer a target. Everything in black's position is very well protected. Suddenly, white's position is in a crisis. Also, this pawn is hanging. Rook a3. In comes the bulldozer. The rook attacks the queen. The bishop sees the knight. The rook sees this. The knight sees the bishop. The knight sees this bishop. Queen comes in down here. Queen on d3. Now we have another stare down. And here Magnus just vacuums the pieces. Rook h4. Queen d7. Bishop d7. gh4. King g6. And when the dust settles on the next move, we have this position. This, white cannot win. And that is not good enough because white has to win. Magnus here more than happy with the draw. If this was the Classical World Championship, he would be playing it for a win, but he is not playing in the Classical World Championship. That is not an exaggeration. He is quite literally not playing in it, and he is more than happy here to make a draw. And the boys actually, they just agree to one. Levon was losing, but it doesn't matter. Lose, draw, he still loses the mini-match. 2 back-to-back epic games. Kings hunted, pieces flying. Now, another man who has been playing terrific chess. This was a crazy game, and one of the best parts is it was a Caro-Kann, which still is my favorite opening, although I have been playing a lot more Sicilians. But Caro-Kann, also on Chessly, by the way. All these things you could try for free. All the courses. Every single course. You could go learn the Caro-Kann. No, you don't got to put in any financial information. That's a big thing that companies do now. You do the trial, then they make you, then they're like, oh, you forgot, boom. Nope, go try the Caro-Kann. D4, D5, E5, bishop F5. I love that Ali Reza is like the only 2750, 2800 level player in the world who is consistently playing the Caro-Kann. Castles, and now he plays one of my favorite lines. He plays A5. Now, actually, Jan Nepomniachtchi himself, who is playing with the white pieces in this game, does also dabble in A-pawn movements. And Ali Reza breaks with F6. Jan plays bishop D3, and from the opening, it is actually Firouzja who, well, actually, like, before that move. It is actually Firouzja who had stabilized, but after knight E4, Jan's got a very powerful initiative because he is able to kind of create weaknesses and now target them. And not only is this pawn a weakness, it is also the knight going to D3 and the knight going to E5, but 4 minutes, 6 minutes. Weaknesses don't matter when there's not that much time on the clock. Dynamic positions matter a whole lot more. The feel for the position matters more. Queen goes to C8. It's not a pleasant position, and Ali Reza has half the time of his opponent. Jan makes an improving move and brings the rook, and everything in this position is pointing to the fact that the next moves are going to be an absolute avalanche down the side of the board. Ali Reza Firouzja is on the ropes. Jan is doing the thing in boxing where the guy is covering up and then he just throws a nasty shot to the stomach and you go, oh my God. Bishop D6, here comes G4, here comes knight E5, here comes knight G6, removing all the pieces from the board. It's just a complete bulldozer, right? F4 looks really nasty here too. It's not the best move, but the point is that these pawns are just, oh, I mean, my goodness, the E file, the F file, the king is stuck in the center. Right, he goes knight G6, HG, here comes knight F3, and now Firouzja with the move of the freaking day. The biggest weakness in the position has been the E5 square and the pawn on E6. So what does Ali Reza do? He throws it out the window, E5, standing up to the bully. 4 things to control this, but suddenly here comes queen G4. You gotta take like this. Jan tries to call his bluff, and by the way, Firouzja found that move with 27 seconds on the clock. Jan does this, sacrifices the bishop. Why does he do this? Because after knight c4, he's going to win the bishop back. But you've been caught. You've been caught with your hand in the cookie jar. And after f4, knight h3, you lose the knight. Jan has to try to create counterplay, but look at this. From absolutely nowhere, this rook did not move. It didn't move. Suddenly Firouzja is not only up a knight, he is the one attacking the white king. Total reverse, of course. And I think here he had to do something. I mean, he has 10 seconds on the clock, you know what I'm saying? But he takes on f4, and Jan here had to find rook e7 and come back. Rook f3 is the move chosen, and after the rook arrives on h4, Jan's not winning the knight back. Trades, queen f5, and Nepo was not happy. He had a fantastic position, but Ali Reza came to play. He was playing great chess. Yesterday it was Lazovic who won 3 matches. The young man from Belarus accused of cheating, straight up. Not going to sugarcoat it. That is exactly what happened, and it's crazy that that's a thing, you know? I watch a lot of combat sports, and in combat sports, it's actually very socially accepted to just accuse other people of performance-enhancing drugs. It's very slanderous in many sports, but somehow it's accepted, and in chess, it's clearly not slanderous anymore. You can barely just do it. Nothing happens. Nobody sanctions you. By the way, these guys met. Yeah, Carlsen, Firouzja. This is awesome stuff. And we're actually going to kick things off here in the Armageddon. They drew their 2 games. They had to play 2 games against each other. They drew them. Now, here's something legendary. Remember, to get black in the Armageddon, black draw equals win. That's why you bid time to play with black. Their bids were like 4 or 5 seconds apart. Ali Reza won with a 640 bid, 642. I think Magnus bid 647. That's how close it was. Firouzja outbids him and now has to defend the position, but Magnus is smart. He plays the King's Indian attack. Why? Because black has to think a lot. Because you don't want to get into a theoretical game where black memorized everything, because he has Chessly. Ali Reza's got a Chessly annual membership. This is not, I have no proof of this whatsoever. G6, bishop f4. And Magnus just playing this in a way where he's just going to keep tension. He's going to keep tension. Alireza's got to make difficult decisions the entire game. Alireza only is going to get 1 second of bonus time on the 60th move. They do that out of respect for the players so that they're not slamming the clock and knocking it off the table. E4, take. And Alireza forces the issue. He gets to a position where the position resembles something logical. Here's the problem. It looks logical, but it's not any good. White now has a very easy plan. He plays f4, he plays rook f2, Magnus is better. This is just about the worst position to give the GOAT. It's just about the worst position. He's going to put his knight on d5, and he's going to kick out the knight, and now it's easy. Now White just has to make improving moves for the remainder of the game. Right? He'll play king h2. Okay, black is going to play knight c5 probably. You can play queen e3. The knight will get to d3. You play like rook d2. You bring the second rook, you try to get this knight out. At some point later, you play e5, you slowly, b3 to remove the blockade. Great, but suddenly, Magnus chooses the wrong plan. He rushes with e5. Now, it's still okay. But this is bad. He wanted to remove some control of the position, but he needed to slow play. Or he needed to build up an attack. He actually had to play g4, f5. He needed to commit to that attack. Instead, he goes on that side of the board, and Alireza stabilizes instantly. He stomps b4, and for the second game that I'm showing you in a row, he's down 3 minutes to 6. But the position is all right, and he brings the rook straight to the d file, and now he's better with black. Outplaying Magnus. You love to see it. Like, we love seeing those games that I show. We love seeing Magnus just expert positional game, into an attack, bulldozer, crazy games with Levon. But also, it's kind of fun. I mean, it is fun to watch somebody put up a fight. You know what I mean? Like, I would compare it to tennis. We root for the guys like, you know, Federer, Nadal, Djokovic. But when they get to a final and they're playing somebody who's won 2 Grand Slams and you're kind of cheering for the underdog, it's exciting, all right? So rook d2, b5, Alireza securing control of the queen side completely, and he has to play fast. 3 minutes versus 2. And before you know it, the knight jumps in, the knight gets to c2. Great combo. Rook a7, knight e1, rook d7, everything traded. That's it. All the pieces come off the board. I don't care if you're Magnus Carlsen. You're not going to beat Firouzja in this position. If Firouzja had 5 seconds on the clock, maybe. But no. And Firouzja, calm, collected, trade some pieces. Magnus unable to break through. The game is a draw, but remember the Armageddon rules. Firouzja started the game with 640. That means Armageddon, draw is a win. The only man so far to beat Magnus in these preliminary stages. But Magnus still in first place. It's very close. After that, it's Firouzja. I think Firouzja might even be tied with him. Tomorrow, we have the final round of the round robin. Wesley So at the bottom of the standings, pulling a me. He has 1 out of 6. So pulling a Gotham. I ended up with 2 out of 9. He's only going to be able to play 7 rounds. And Levon has to break into the 4-player survival stage that they're going to play. All right? Champions Chess Tour, roaring on, and if you made it this far in the video, I will give you a couple of other things. I was just informed yesterday that the GothamChess chessboard, this bad boy, if you're looking to get it for somebody, is now on Amazon, not just on Walmart, so you can look up GothamChess chessboard, and I'm super pumped about Chess League. Guys, look, I know I'm doing a lot of promo. I know I would love if, like, I couldn't, but this is the biggest platform that I have. I don't run TV ads. I don't buy paid advertising. I'm just letting you know what's available for you if you want to study chess. The new interface is incredible if you want to get a chessboard for yourselves, your loved ones, your kid, whatever. I'm just telling you, because if I don't tell you, you won't know. So I appreciate all of you who are being positive in the comment section. Appreciate those of you who have a course or have all the courses or have the board or have the book. There's a lot of chess stuff out there, all right? Just doing my job, trying to keep you informed. I'll see you all for tomorrow's recap, and get out of here.